Hey. All right. Well, people are coming back from lunch. I pulled up this is the practice test. So I took it in July when 6.0 came out. And as you can see, I always miss at least one. Let's see. Chapter, so lesson 1, 2, and 3. I was just gonna pull a couple of random ones here just to talk about. All right. What about number 2 here? What do you guys think? Which of the following types of information is shared between the teams on an art? Number 2. If you're just getting back, I just pulled up, these are the same questions you're going to see when you take the practice test. I just captured them all when I took the practice test, and for fun, just to talk through a few in class. Anybody have a guess at number 2?
Is it the number 1, first option? Convention
Set of metrics.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I'm
think
sorry, Jacqueline.
A.
I'm sorry, no.
I think a set of metrics.
All right, we have a vote for A and a vote for B. Any tiebreaker?
I will go for A.
A it is. Yep, so the set of metrics, that is kind of a tricky one, right? Because there probably are some metrics that are shared. All right, so you're always going to get these questions where you've got to pick the best answer, right? And this is sort of a definitional answer, right? Because they're talking about the art and the teams on the art. They share this common mission, right, to a single backlog. Whereas, the set of metrics, I would just say it depends on the metric and how it's presented. I don't know. Does that make sense? That's why I don't have a guide to this. I'm just saying that's why I think this one makes sense. All right. Oh, hang on. I forgot the colors. What about this one? 16. What is one benefit from moving from waterfall methods to agile delivery? C.
I say C too.
Yeah, it's C.
C.
All right. Very good. Nice. I thought this one was a little bit tricky. Let me zoom in because it's little.
So you we'll give you a link, and then
Okay, thought I heard something. Look at number 15. Can you guys read it?
C, I believe so.
Okay, clear goals and purpose. We got to vote for C. Oh, we hadn't gone over all this yet. All right, well, then this is just a shot. That's okay. Let's just see if y'all can.
Clear goals.
I
and
wasn't
purpose.
thinking. I was thinking it was something else. My colors were off. We hadn't actually even talked about this, but see if you guys get it. So y'all are saying clear goals and purpose.
Mutual trust.
Mutual trust. So let's just think about this. We hadn't even gone over it yet, but that's okay because we're not going to spend long on it when we do.
LD conflict.
Yeah, healthy conflict. I think that's the right answer. So the healthy conflict, right, is this two developers have different ideas. I think the way this is worded is kind of tricky. Which of the following characteristics can help Team B continue a productive discussion and arrive at a shared plan? There's something about the wording of that. Like, I would rather it ask, like, which of these characteristics is demonstrated by, right, ideally by the two developers having a different idea. Right, and that's normal, healthy conflict, right? If you have like, valid ideas. The other ones are a little bit more indirectly related. So clear goals and purpose is different from implementation, right? So clear goals and purpose is kind of what we need to do, which is indicated in the backlog. But then there's the how are you going to do it, which is a separate conversation, usually more technical. Does that make sense? So that you could have really clear goals, but still have a difference of opinion on how to implement. Does everybody understand that? All right, there's just a couple. We'll pull those up again. Okay, so on this, on lesson 2, I put up the test guide. I'm going to try something a little bit different with this. You know, since they came out with 6.0, I'm trying to figure out the best approaches for all these classes. With almost all of them, I have to pick and choose what I emphasize in the class because there's just not enough time. Like the only way you could go through and hit everything, and every concept is I wouldn't be able to go deep into anything, right? It would be almost like reading the slides, which is no good. And so lesson 2, all of it's, so you see parts from lesson 2, there's a significant number of questions that come from it. But this defining the coach and team role is where I'm going to spend the focus because that's like 30% of the questions that you could expect. The high performing team characteristics and all of the squishy stuff with like conflict resolution can suck up so much time and it always has. It's fun. The problem is like we have to pick and choose what's the biggest bang for the buck for you guys. So I'm gonna go pretty quickly through the soft skills sections. They still may ask you a question, but the emphasis of the question is not going to be so much on that. It's going to be this, which is really a relatively small section of lesson 2. Does that make sense to you guys? Well, what do y'all think? I'm kind of pitching the idea to y'all. Let me know if that makes sense to you. I see some thumbs up. Right, awesome. All right, because normally what I do is I end up having to rush for my taste. Everything, a whole bunch of key things that I'd rather have spent more time on than some of these others. And so that's where we're gonna try to do it a little differently. Okay. Responsibilities of a Scrum Master. So this is all about deep diving a little bit into the role of the Scrum Master, making sure that you understand its main responsibilities, and etc. So let's start with just the basic responsibilities. So what we're going to do is you're going to read this article, and I'm going to break you out into groups. And the way I think about this is sort of forced study time, like 10 or 15 minutes. What you're going to do is, this is a Scrum Master class, right? So we're gonna pull up the Safe Scrum Master article, which is pretty long. And what you want to do is like do an outline, go through and pull out the main concepts. At least that's the way I've always studied in school. I remember, right? I'm an outliner. I like to do lots of bullet points and outline things. So if we're here in chapter 2, role of an effective Scrum Master. So I'll go into group 1. And what you want to try to extract out is a list of the responsibilities, attributes of an effective Scrum Master. What makes a Scrum Master good, right? And a lot of these are going to be able to be lifted right out of the article, right? So characteristics of a Scrum Master, right? They're empathetic. That's an attribute, right? So this is more just kind of forcing you to go in, learn these key things, extract them out of the article. And then lastly is activities. What are things that Scrum Masters do? So again, don't overthink this. One of the things you're going to do is prepare the team for PI planning, right? Going to facilitate team events. So just do the best you can, extracting out the key information. Any questions about the activity? So do it in groups.
Can you put that link in the chat, or did you already?
Yep. I can, sure. I'll put the link in the chat. Also, remember you've got all these links in the student workbook, just for the future, because you've got all these slides. And also, for the Scrum Master article, you could always just click on the word Scrum Master to go to it. I'm just showing you a little extra, but there's the link. Yep. Okay, let me open up the breakout rooms. And maybe take a few minutes to start skimming through it. And then what I would recommend, somebody share the screen, but that everybody go to the Safe Studio site and maybe help each other divide and conquer, extracting out certain information out of it. And we'll try to time box this for about 15 minutes. Nothing, everything takes a little longer than what it says. All right, I've got the rooms open.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. So. Yeah. Yeah. I thought you were not coming.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, what do you guys think we should add into the responsibility section?
The entire bar. Yeah, I sure did.
Can we add like facilitating the Scrum ceremonies over here?
Yeah, I think that would be a good issue.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Any attributes with that?
Communication skills could be an attribute, but to facilitate, you gotta have good communication skills.
Can we add like coaching or mentoring over here?
Yeah, we should actually. Team coaching is anyway what we say is the master's responsibility now.
What about leadership?
Yes, we can add that definitely. We also like I believe that relates to the retrospectives where we come up with some action plans that can improve the efficiency of the team members. Can we add something like that?
Are you referring to predominantly the action items that the Scrum Master should track after the retrospective?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Might be how we want to articulate it.
Yeah, so I'm just like trying to look for a single word that will describe that. Progressive action plans, something like that.
Continuous improvement. I don't know, like it's part of the continuous improvement. How do you want to put it in one word?
Yeah, the activity like facilitating Scrum ceremonies is not activity. I mean, I'm a little confused with the responsibility activity wise.
Logically, what you said makes sense. Actually, facilitation is not an activity. But the reason we wrote it there was the thought that the Scrum Master is not responsible for all the facilitation.
We also to get involved with some team building activities as a Scrum Master. Can we include that somewhere?
Then the collaboration with product owner.
Yep, that's important. Collaboration of product owner with the team, you mean?
No, I believe she mentioned collaboration with product, like the
Okay,
Scrum
sorry.
Master's collaboration with product.
Okay.
Also, make sure that you pay attention to how they've got those explicitly listed 5 responsibility areas. Just get used to that.
Okay.
Those 2, yeah, like improving our performance, building high performing teams, etc.
Okay, so the collaboration with product owner can be a part of facilitating the planning session.
So I think what Matt is, so Matt, I have a quick question. I'm not able to access the slides. I don't know if that is me only, but when I reload the page, because I wanted to take a look on the link that you were sharing earlier on the slide, if I'm assuming you're talking about the 5 responsibilities listed in the link, is that fair?
Yeah, the 5 responsibilities that are not on the slide, but in the article, right?
Yeah, in the article. So I'm trying to access the slide so that I can get to the article.
Oh yeah, the slides are all in your student workbook. Did you download the student workbook?
I did.
I already, I
Yeah,
did.
thank you.
the link.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I didn't see either it. I listened in the chat. Thank you.
Yep, you got it. All right, great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave you guys alone. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Looks like
Okay,
everything.
got it. Thanks, Matt. So I think he was referring to the 5 responsibilities.
Yeah.
Building high performing teams, facilitating PI planning,
Yeah.
improving flow,
Now
supporting
it's
iteration.
yes.
Yeah. So all
Yeah.
what we like facilitating Scrum ceremony and collaboration with PO will become activities for us most likely.
So I have added like the collaboration with the PO as a part of a planning session,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
it
So it's
does.
basically iteration execution, right? Because it all anyways falls in that category. Supporting iteration execution, like an activity, or it has those. Rani, I think you mentioned about the facilitating team events, collaboration with PO, all falls in here.
So so what I'm able to understand is that all the 5 responsibilities will line up over here, and based on that,
Yes.
we need to define any specific activities that Scrum Master can contribute to. Am I?
That's my understanding too. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna help you, Rani, add those 5 responsibilities in the first column at least.
Oh, perfect. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Okay, and based on, I'm sorry. And based on that, we can just add on attributes over here, supporting
Exactly.
iteration execution, we can add like I would say iteration demos, system demos over here, or not. I'm not so sure.
So those are the team events, right? All the teams.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely that. Or we can add the attributes that are mentioned in the link. It mentions like transparency. We can add with the iteration.
Oh, I see.
Does this look a bit better, or do I need to organize the diagram over here?
Looks good to me.
Yeah, as long as we have the content, it should be fine, I think.
So I believe as part of activity, we should also, like, if in case we get to see the article,
Yeah.
it kind of breaks down each of the responsibility under what are the underlying activities that has to be taken care within the responsibility. So like for facilitating PI planning, it has just about prepare for PI planning, draft PI plans, coordinate with other teams, create PI objectives, review final plans and business value. Obviously, we don't have to write explicitly all of them, but we can kind of condense it out. Like then supporting iteration execution, it highlights facilitating team events. So we already highlighted those facilitating Scrum ceremonies. So that kind of covers it.
Yeah.
And then work within the arts cadence. I'm assuming they're referring to some sort of this service. Collaborate with the PO, we already have it. So I think we should move that to activity.
Activity, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we add like for the high performance team and like resolving conflicts in the attributes or in the activity?
Do you want to articulate that as foster and support team collaboration? Because like I don't know if you guys have the article handy, but I'm just trying to take a look on it. Actually, what will you say also, right? There is a explicit point of digital team conflict, so we can write it down for sure.
Yeah, conflict navigator. Yeah, we can use that.
Yep.
Sorry for the typo. Okay. Anything more we would like to add to the board? We just have like 50 seconds more.
We can add a lot of things right now, but I think this is good. At least this is good.
We can just quickly summarize on what we have discussed.
Hey.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I haven't seen you forever. What are you doing?
All right. Let's see. This looks good. I wanted to make sure that you guys all got these particular 5 responsibilities, right? I'm sorry, I don't know what a ceremony is. Could you guys tell me what that is?
So before just going into the article, we thought we have to list down all the responsibilities of a Scrum Master. So that's when we first mentioned facilitating the Scrum ceremonies or events. So then we moved it to the
Oh,
activity.
events. I see. I was messing with you guys.
Oh,
Just the
okay.
word. Make sure you know the word
Sure.
event. That's
Yeah.
right.
Sure.
The team events. Right. Okay. Sounds good. Collaborating with the PO makes sense. Okay. Anybody have any questions about what they read? Is it straightforward? You know, and some of it you may not have the full context because we haven't gone over actually how the PI draft plans and stuff are done, but we're going to be doing a simulation of PI planning tomorrow and you'll see all of that. All right, great. So here's those 5 responsibility areas again. And let's see. Yeah, they don't go into more detail on it. But you guys extracted out the detail. I talked about this at a high level before. I just want to emphasize now that we've talked a little bit more about it, that these bottom 3 are talking about, all of it is from the context of the team level. The bottom 3 are specific team responsibilities. The other 2 have to do with keeping your team connected to the larger art, right? Or agile release training, team of teams, all the same thing. A couple of things, right? Just going a little bit further. They've listed out these particular responsibilities that are unique to a safe environment for safe. So there's this role called release train engineer, which they have not defined yet. Isn't that nice of them to talk about things they haven't defined? But so you're working with the RTE, and that. But if you look at this layout, you see the RTEs kind of lined up with the Scrum Master. The release train engineer is sort of, you can think of it as the Scrum Master, but for the whole art. It's a confusing name because you're not in charge of releases and you're not an engineer. So usually, I think they're just trying to go with the train metaphor a little bit. You're enabling the ability to do releases by having an efficient train, but you can think of this as a senior type Scrum Master, or the Scrum Master over the whole art. So of course, this is a key contact for the Scrum Master role, right? Staying coordinated across all of the teams is going to require you to work with this role and with the other Scrum Masters of other teams. Which you've got a lot of this stuff listed here. There's a definition coming up of a system team, so I'm going to wait on that. But you're coordinating with whoever you need to keep the train on the tracks. Participating in the coach sync. Again, the coach sync used to be called Scrum of Scrums until version 6. And it's called Scrum of Scrums in other frameworks as well. And that's where all of the Scrum Masters are getting together And we're tracking the progress right from the beginning of the PI, because whatever plans we come up with at the big PI planning event as a team of teams, they're going to start to change almost immediately as we learn things and we're applying things, and there's a general evolution. So the way that we keep in sync, right, so to speak, is we have all these sync meetings. The coach sync is one of them. Another one is for the POs to meet with product management, called a PO sync. Fosters normalize estimating. Again, just good practice for the ways that we estimate, which we're going to go into more detail on tomorrow, as when the real detail will come out. And then this last one is really important that some people overlook, right? And that is that you're encouraging the team to operate under even the architectural guidelines, right? Whatever sort of governance you have in place, like your definitions of done. This is what requires, and this is why I think, again, a differentiator for Scrum Masters that want to stand out is you understand how all these pieces come together. What does it actually take to do a system demo with the other teams? Well, that's going to usually mean, if you're new, that's going to be foreign, perhaps, right? If you're new to Agile as a company, this ability to do frequent integrated demoing with other teams that may be on other platforms, right, or different technology stacks, may not happen overnight. It might require constant pushing and incremental improvement to the infrastructure, the platforms, right, the environments. It's going to enable you to do that. And it's usually as a coach, this is in your coach role. As a Scrum Master, you'd be encouraging that. Everybody good? Understand? I know it's after lunch. I'm kind of feeling more tired than usual too, and I didn't even eat a heavy lunch. I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to blame Thanksgiving.
I was gonna say that Thanksgiving food is heavy.
Yeah, something. I'll wake up. All right, this activity is a master of taking up loads and loads of time. So I started last few classes just doing it together. So I'm just going to pull up group one, just to have one, and I'm just going to talk through some of these. So the reason why this is tricky is that some of them are very subjective, right? And luckily, they're not going to put these subjective ones on the test. I'll sort of point out the ones that I think could be. But they just want you to think about collaboration in general and realms of responsibility. So if we think of the term responsibility, let's look at all these activities. Let's just grab a few and let's put them where they belong in this Venn diagram. Let's start with something less controversial. Let's see this. Whose responsibility is it to plan the iteration? Where would you put it?
Scrum Master. Scrum Master.
So the Scrum Master is going to come up with the plan without involving the team or the product owner?
No, it should be all three.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Right. Yep. That's sort of the gist of it, right? So now, what about this one? Facilitating the team events. Who has major responsibility for that?
This is Scrum Master.
Yeah, that one I think is more clearly Scrum Master. Okay, what about this one? Attending backlog refinement.
All three. All three of them.
I agree. What about this though? Attending iteration retrospective.
Agile team and Scrum Master only.
I was
No
expecting
product owner.
somebody to say that. So you actually, if you were taking an exam with other frameworks or from Scrum Guide, traditional Scrum, that would be the correct answer. But in SAFe, it's not. So you have to just remember in SAFe, we want the product owner to be involved with everything. And that's an actual difference that SAFe has from other things. So you may have to get used to that idea. Same with the stand-up or the team sync. You may have learned that the product owner doesn't go to the team sync, but in SAFe, we want the product owner to be in everything. So that it's kind of part of bringing the customer, right, or the business in closer to the teams. Everybody get that? Does that make sense? So you may have to unlearn something for the test anyway for that. I'm trying to see if they have attend the team sync. There it is. Oh no, that's the coach sync. Okay, who attends the coach sync?
Scrum Master.
That's right. That's just the Scrum Master. Remember, the Scrum Master is the coach. Whose job is it to improve flow?
Scrum Master. Scrum Master.
Yeah, I'd probably put that there. Giving and applying feedback.
Scrum
I agree. It's a little bit weird the way it's worded, right? Because if you look at the Agile team responsibilities, it does say getting feedback, right? And then who else would apply feedback other than the team? But I think what they want is they want you to think about, I look at the product owner, the applying of the feedback starts in the backlog. And so that's why I think that they probably want us to put product owner. They don't mean applying it to the code, but that sort of happens once it's in the backlog as an item. I don't know. See, this is me. I overthink everything. Right? That's what I think. Does that make sense? If I put it here, maybe they meant for it to be here. I don't know, but my hunch tells me.
I'll go look.
Bye.
Makes sense?
A little confusing.
Yeah, it is. So like I said, some of these are just, they are a little confusing, the way they're worded. Like this one here. This is confusing to me. Execute the iteration. If you just look at the list of responsibilities of the Scrum Master, supporting iteration execution. Okay. This is why I don't like this exercise. That's why I don't send y'all to breakout rooms for this. But who's actually executing? Isn't that the whole team? So I don't know what they want us to put. Right? I don't have an answer key to this. So
Shouldn't it be just Agile team? The execution part?
maybe, but like I said, a Scrum Master has supporting iteration execution. You're right. Maybe that's what they mean.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
supporting and facilitating is a different thing than the execution.
Yeah, maybe you're right with the wording. I just don't have a definite guide, so that's why we're talking to it, right? All of these attend the team sync meetings. Remember, that's everybody, even if you may have been taught not to include the product owner. Test the system, definitely an agile team. Well, maybe by the book, it's the agile team, right? But I know a lot of times the product owners in organizations will do like user acceptance testing. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, so
But probably they mean for us to put this. I don't know. And those may be the ones that connect with the customer is definitely PO. Oh, here's the other one I wanted to mention. Communicate with other teams. Where do you guys think that one goes?
Scrum Master. That's it.
You might think
Usually-
so.
Scrum Master and product.
So this one is this one.
In my like in our case, in my organization, the team leads do the communication with the other teams.
Yeah, and
Maybe agile team.
I
Not
do
sure.
know that in SAFE it emphasizes explicitly. I don't remember exactly where it is, but it explicitly calls out that the team should not be filtering everything through the Scrum Master. They should feel empowered to go directly to other teams if needed. So at a minimum, it's that. But there's probably scenarios where the product owner would do it too, but maybe not as often directly with other teams. So I don't know. I put it either there or there. Yeah. So now do you see why this is an aggravating exercise for me? Just the wording of it. Any questions about responsibilities in general? So when I look at the notes on this one, it just mostly emphasizes the amount of collaboration. Yeah, and doesn't give me any answers to these. Some of them definitely do have specific answers. But I think that's the gist of the ones that I wanted to cover on that. Okay. What makes an effective Scrum Master? So here is some of the slides that I'm going to go through more quickly. You're definitely going to get, probably a question from each of these, but these are the soft skills. So make sure you go back and reread it later. But these are things that I think can be easily read. And you guys probably have as much insight into it as I do, into a lot of this as I do. So let's just talk through some of it. The first is this concept of servant leadership. All right, so the Scrum Master role and most roles in Agile, they really love this servant leadership model. Maybe sometimes even too much, in my opinion, because I think there are other leadership styles that you sometimes need to employ to be a good Scrum Master, frankly. But because sometimes it is necessary to go into more of a driving role, especially on the coach side. But that'll never be the right answer on a SAFE test. So you want to think about this servant leader. It's all about facilitating others, right? Here's some examples of acting as a servant leader. You're persuading rather than directing, right? You're encouraging people's development. And this makes sense, right? This is what it takes to kind of get the teams to stand behind you. They've got to see you as someone that is supportive, right, of them. You're understanding, listening to, etc. Think beyond day-to-day activities. That maybe is going a little bit further than the rest of these. And that there's this, you kind of threw that one in there that doesn't seem to me to go as perfectly with the rest, other than you need to be having a little bit bigger picture. So they have each of the traits and what it looks like in the context of SAFE. So we're going to treat this as a reference. I would at least skim through it, one time before the test. But you can see a lot of these examples, right, of encouragement, support. Again, I think almost everybody here, even if you're not experienced in SAFE, you're experienced with team dynamics. So I think most of this will probably make kind of common sense to you. But stop me if something doesn't. Right? But again, all this idea of persuades rather than using authority. So I find that most of the test questions I get from this stuff, unlike some of the other topics, it's easy just to use your common sense and logic to answer. At least the ones I've seen so far. Here's the one that I think stands out, is think beyond day-to-day activities. And I do see questions that come up on this. I never remember exactly which class, but it does come up. So look at these examples, right? This is anything you would do that's kind of looking at the bigger picture, making sure that we're always doing improvement items and doing the retrospective. For example, you're looking for opportunities to pair people up because you're trying to cross-train them and get them those T-shaped skills, right? Again, it's this having the bigger picture in mind. You know where you want to take the team. And that's probably, if they're a new team, a year or two at least down the road. So you have this bigger picture of what a good, high performing team looks like. And you're incrementally making progress towards that. All right, let's watch this little video. They've had a couple of these little videos that just kind of anecdotal about the Scrum Master experience. So let's watch this. I'm going to share my sound.
A few months back, we had a transition in leadership. We had our current product owner at the time was going on sabbatical, and we had to find the new leader coming in as well. It was a challenge for me as a Scrum Master, being put in a place of making sure that the team felt good during that time of transition. But that challenge was then rewarding when the team came together and we met our PI objectives. We got the work done and we did have fun while doing it. There's more to being a Scrum Master than facilitation and process and efficiency of your teams. We have the ability to make connections with our teammates and our team members and help them through difficult times. I leaned really heavily on the great group of Scrum Masters that we have at Scaled Agile and the different viewpoints that they have that I got to pull from to make sure that the team had what they needed. I really cherished those relationships during that time. So one of my key takeaways was trust your intuition and trust that the relationships you've built can impact them in a positive way and get them through something that's really hard. I'm Maddie, a Scrum Master at Scaled Agile.
Okay. I want to say a couple of words about the video that we just saw on this last topic. That I hope aren't controversial. I mean, it's nothing, there's nothing scandalous here. It's just, maybe it's like a little extra advice for what it's worth, right? From me to sort of my 2 cents. I think this stuff is extremely important. All the stuff that we're talking about, this, are you making the team feel good and comfortable? I will say, try to say this the right way, that you have to be careful when you're out there performing this role, or especially if you're interviewing for this role, if you find yourself in that situation, that frankly, it has to be about more than just making the team feel good, right? We know that you have to make that connection between that we want employees, employee engagement is important. But I found that even senior management that are hiring Scrum Masters, they don't want to invest in a role that's just rah, feel good, right? You have to make that connection to them. The connection is obvious. The connection is, how can you have high performing teams which drive efficiency, which hits the bottom line, if they're not performing well as a team? All the benefit that you get from doing Agile is them getting to know one another and being able to perform at a higher level, which means faster time to market, right? Better cycle time, better lead time, faster time to market. You notice that I'm using these terms? That's what people that know how to search for good Scrum Masters, that's what they want to hear. They don't just want to hear, well, just the soft side. Am I making sense? Does that make sense to you guys, what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to just hear, well, we know that there's this tremendous amount of hand-holding that you have to do, the servant leadership, and helping people through transition. But you have to add that explicit connection to that, the impact on performance, so that people, I don't know, it's kind of like reminding people how valuable your role is. Am I making any sense? I don't feel like my words are coming to me today. Everybody's taking a nap. That's the reason. You're here. So just for what it's worth, I think, hey, you have to emphasize. So how technical, for example, does a Scrum Master need to be? What do you guys think? Does it matter?
I think it helps to have some technical knowledge. It might not be so much, but at least a little bit, I think.
You got a better
I
mic.
can say
All
no.
of a sudden we can hear. So Lolupe, we can hear you now. I'm sorry,
So-
go ahead.
You didn't hear me?
Oh yeah, I was commenting on how much better we can hear you now than earlier. No, it's great. I'm sorry, who was I interrupting? Tatali, was that you?
Yeah, I think also like it helps. I mean, I don't think it's necessary, but it also depends on the team. In my organization, I feel that it helps for me to have some technical knowledge to kind of contribute and to participate during the planning meetings there as well.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I
agree. I used to say no, but I think it helps to kind of make the correlations, like when the team's planning, if they did something similar, you kind of have that understanding of the work, and it helps you to kind of move things along when you're, managing the backlog.
Yeah, I agree too. I don't think you have to be super technical. That's where I fall too. But I do think you have to understand the language of software development. If you're going to understand how all the pieces fit together, there's kind of a basic concepts, right, that you have to be able to speak. And so if that's maybe you come from a product background or a subject matter expert or business analyst background over into this. So you have in-depth knowledge, but maybe not on the software development process. In any effort that you put in, right, building up a little bit of knowledge about just the terms and the big processes, I think is going to help. And it's the same thing. That's all I'm saying with understanding why your role is so important, tied to actual business outcomes and metrics, is going to be very critical for the Scrum Master role, especially with so many CSMs, right? And just kind of basic Scrum Masters out there. It's a differentiator. Okay, just wanted to, a little sidetrack on that. Definition of higher performing teams. Just remember this slide exists, okay? And this, we already did that one question on before we had seen it, but I don't know if it would help that much anyway. You've got the healthy conflict, mutual trust, engagement. When I look at this, I think this is something that is not easy to obtain. And you're never going to find a team right from the beginning that's high performing. As a matter of fact, Tuckman, using this Tuckman model, would agree. So whether or not you agree with this has been around for a long time, and I know some people like to debate these things. Basically what Tuckman is saying is that not only these 4 stages, they're not only typical, they're actually required, we say. In other words, to be performing, you have to have gone through these stages. You have to have gone through a storming stage. What do you guys think? You guys, this matches my experience. You guys agree? Yep. And this goes to what we talked about before. If you have team members that are rotating in and out, and you have a pooled resources, what happens when a new dynamic, when a new person comes into a team that's been working together for a while? Does that happen to you guys? How would you describe what happens?
They're usually lost in my experience. Like they have to get into the performing stage. But they get up to speed quicker if it's just one person coming into an established team.
But what about for the other team members? Do you instantly trust someone that you just met? I don't think, as nice as you are, if you're honest with yourself, I would think most people would be very hard. You don't know. It's an unknown quantity. You don't know if they're going to deliver. It takes time together to go through these stages each time that it's disrupted. So it just sort of emphasizes the importance of stable teams, long-lived teams.
Do you think that if a new person comes in and the team is already in the performing stage, did they go back to forming again? Or is it,
Absolutely.
okay,
They may be able to recover quickly, especially if they're really strong. And like you said, it's just one person. But I think, at least to a certain extent, that's the argument here, is that you're going to be bouncing around these a little bit. And yeah, no, that's the, I don't know. It seems to fit. You can
So
have
you
one
have-
little change that can mess things up. It may not, but it's definitely going to change things, at least for a little bit, right?
Okay.
And did I interrupt the question? Were you asking a question?
I was, but I'm gonna hold it.
Okay.
I'll hold it for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlene. See, now I feel bad for poking fun at Charlene and her PMP, and she's the one answering most of the questions. All you guys are relying on her. So now I feel bad. I'm gonna have to pick on someone else.
This is actually a how they say teams form in PMI as well. Tuckman. I was just
Oh, yeah.
wondering, like, you have
Yeah,
a
none of this is safe specific that we're talking about now.
okay.
You're absolutely right. And I interrupted you in the middle of your question again. So sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I think it's a little delayed, so that's fine. I just find it interesting. Like I'm in the middle of a team transformation right now, and it's very chaotic. And so I was wondering how to get back to that performing stage. But if there's different stories that we're delivering and it has different skill sets and people are jumping in and out, it sounds like you're recommending more of a waterfall approach opposed to a
Oh
true.
gosh, don't tell anybody that I said that.
No, they're not going to go for it.
I sort of did.
Yeah,
but I
they're
was-
more like the buzzwords. I think sometimes they adopt or agile when they're really doing what I've heard, which people hate, hybrid. They're trying to force some project management. I'm so confused because I'm like, are we doing agile or are we doing project management waterfall? Because they want to build requirements, full requirements, then start iterations. So it is a
It's
mini.
so- That's the way it is everywhere. It's so strange. Nobody wants to fully commit in all aspects. And it's just, that's what makes it complicated, right? And I guess what I was saying before, just for the context, when I said you may as well be waterfall, is I mean, if you had, I'm not talking about temporary changes, but if you had constant change in the team, you're never ever going to be able to get to norming or even performing. In which case, I think you've taken away any edge that Agile has over any other practice. Right? This is so key.
I agree. I live that, and then I'll stop. But that is what I have not done any kind of SAFe training at all. But I'm in it, and I was thinking like, why are we doing this? It doesn't seem like it's bringing any advantage with where we are right now. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And there's a lot of people just going through the motions. It's just, it's hard. It's a lot more than just assigning a scrum master and dividing the teams up. You have to install this whole different paradigm, right? And it goes up the organization. Here's a quick overview at a high level for the team events. So earlier we talked about the different events in the art. I have already mentioned these events, but they've got them listed. But also, when we get to chapter 4, we're going to go through each one of these in detail with movies. But we've got I know most of you are familiar with these, but we're constantly refining our backlog, always trying to stay ahead so we have something to work on. We do planning at the beginning of every iteration. We meet every day with syncs. We do a review at the end to sort of complete out the learning cycle. And then we have this iteration retrospective. So we're always improving as a team at the team level. They have this little bit of stuff. Again, this is soft stuff. I'm going to go fast through about meetings. I'll just say that if there's any role where you need to be really good and organized with your meetings, it's this role, right? This does not come naturally to me. I do it because I have to. I need to have very organized meetings, but it's not natural, right? I have to put a lot of effort into it. But you have to do that, right? Where everybody understands the purpose. There's already going to be, especially with new transformations, this perception that there's too much overhead to the SAFe system or whatever you're doing, because they don't yet understand, right, the purpose of all of the different events and the meetings. So that makes it even more important to be very explicit about that. So they just give some of the, I think probably you guys experienced these. Time boxing is extremely important for the Scrum Master. Pulling people into the conversation, especially if it's in your team, noticing if somebody's quiet, never says anything, that you're pulling them in so you don't end up with this permanently disgruntled kind of problems that are happening. And then they've got two pages of tips that I'll let you guys read through. Powerful questions. This is another one that, again, mostly I'm going to leave it to you guys to look at because there's usually only very few high-level questions about it. In general, this fits the servant leader paradigm, right? You don't give the answer generally, you're guiding to the solution. And this is, I use this statement all the time. A problem well stated is a problem half solved. It's so true. It's so true. And there's a problem solving workshop that we do sometimes that's all about this. Doing root cause analysis. Anytime you do that, you're following sort of this idea. So this is the first of these beautiful slides that they create, where it's got things on one side and something else on the other. And I think these are so good. They're so good. As a matter of fact, in the extra material, I've extracted out, there's a bunch of them, all the slides that look like this into their own document because they're dense and they've got just a lot of, they're saying a lot with a little. So I'm just a big fan of the way they've done these slides. So in general, we're moving away from this and we're moving towards this. Right, directing, guiding, all the things we've been talking about. And they got this idea of what makes a question powerful. So the few that stand out to me here, right, are things that are going to, if you think about just in general, divergent and convergent thinking, right? When you're doing brainstorming, you're trying to get people to think outside the box. So you get them to diverge a little bit and then pull them back, right? So a lot, to me, good, powerful questions allow for that, right? Not too narrow of a path, right? So they're thought-provoking. They're inviting creativity, right? A little bit out of the box thinking. Here's some examples of powerful questions. I'm not saying could see myself saying all of these exactly, but it's mostly the idea that matters. I think this right here is a really good one in particular. If I'll just pick out a few, what do we need more clarity about? I think I probably used that a lot, or versions of that. I would never use this one. I would say that one. Okay, maybe I wouldn't say any of the rest of them exactly like that, but you guys get the idea. Okay, collaboration with other teams. There's a couple of new terms here, and then we'll take a break because it's after lunch. We're all gonna be tired, so we need a break. But there's a couple of new terms, so a little bit more energy. All the teams, and as a Scrum Master, right, this makes working at scale challenging. We need to integrate our work a lot. So right from the beginning, when we have dependencies on other teams and interfacing with other teams, we need engaging those teams sooner rather than later. Big mistake, right, that teams at scale fall into is they don't try to integrate until towards the end, and then everything blows up. Right, and to do that means that you're going to have to work with this team called the system team. So I want to define that. They may have a definition somewhere in the slides. But on the big picture, they have a system team listed here. Okay, so here's what the system team is. All right, so here's a bonus question. Bonus points. What did I tell you guys to think of when you see the word system? Anybody remember that?
Art. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Ronnie was paying attention to the whole thing. See, the rest of you guys weren't paying attention. That's right. Think about the art level. Right. So system means the art level. So what this is that for an art, it's a group of people, right? This is best practice, that focus only on building out our development environment. So the pipeline software, the automation software, all the environments, the tooling that's related to that, because that's such a specialty. It's complicated. That it's better that you, for most organizations, to separate this out as a separate function or team. So we just call that a system team. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
All right. So working with the system team on automated system level tests. It's collaboration with the other teams. You're also working with them on automation of your own story level test. But the system team, right, should be looking at that higher level also. The art level. And then they've got these other things. Working with the system architect, right, who's kind of making sure that all the architecture across the teams is coming together. Okay. Oops, I lied. There's one more slide and we're at the end of the section. I thought that was the last one. Okay, so coach things. We already talked about this. Also referred to as Scrum of Scrums still, but it's Coach Sync officially in 6.0. This is how we sort of keep the train on the tracks, right? So you're continuously meeting with other Scrum Masters and with the release train engineer, so that you can talk about alterations to the plan that inevitably are going to have to happen. Right, we're getting visibility. So let's say that we were dependent on another team to do something so we could start this other thing. Well, we would want to know how they're doing and start talking sooner rather than later about contingencies if that's starting to fall behind. Okay. All right, let's take our break. We'll give one goat scream. It's good. It says we're getting towards the end of the day. All right, so here's your assignment. You guys ready? Everybody during this break needs to go outside, run around the block 4 times, do 35 jumping jacks, and I don't know what's another exercise. 20 push-ups.
Burpees.
Burpees.
Okay.
Burpees.
All right. That sound good?
Yep.
So you got 10 minutes. You better run fast. Okay. We'll come back. We'll have energy. Finish it out. All right. See you guys in 10 minutes.
No. Nobody ever stood down the spot, yeah. It's good, I just know it. Yeah. It's too good? Yeah. What do we got?
An orange lemon,
Yeah.
and then a summer course of no probiotics in the
Where's that from? Black, blue raspberry and, grape. You can tell, I'll tell you.
All right. I hope everybody had a good exercise. I'm sure everybody did all the exercises. You're right. Drink coffee. See, I don't drink coffee, so I've got my biases like Diet Coke or Coke Zero. Although I realized when I grabbed one, this is caffeine free, so this is not going to help me stay awake. Okay, resolve team conflicts. A couple more areas in this chapter, and then we'll try some practice questions related to it. See if we got it. Okay, well, this is a little bit more understandable way of saying what I was trying to say earlier. Teams together are far more productive than the same number of individuals. The problem, right, with teams is you have, the difficulties of the personalities. But if you can work that out, what they're saying is that the team, that's the secret weapon, right? That's really what we're doing here. Is we're tapping into this peer pressure and productivity of a high performing team, right? That can be motivated. We know that products are more robust. If we can form these teams, again, not only focused in the same domain, but in a way where they're cross-functional. That's where we really get the ideal scenario. And it's not always possible to get the perfect cross-functional representation on every team. It depends a lot on your organization, but as close to that as we can get. That's all we want. They have these different role-playing exercises that, again, for reasons I mentioned before, I'm not going to spend time doing these, but I did include all the handouts that are related to these on my Google Drive that you can access right now if you wanted it. If you wanted to look at those, they've got little different parts where you can read about scenarios of dysfunction, things like that. So the Lencioni 5 dysfunctions of a team triangle, that you definitely may get a test question on this. The idea, right, is that these are the common things, and they tend to build on one another, right? That most all of team dysfunction can trace down to an absence of some sort of trust. But try to remember, it's got the absence of trust, fear of conflict, which can lead to a lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, inattention to results. So they've got a little blurb about how SAFE addresses these common 5 dysfunctions. But just because they've got this written down doesn't mean it's easy. right? This is hard work. But you know, I'll focus on this bottom one because I think again that's the most important. Is the environment safe? Are people scared to actually estimate accurately because they've been burned before, right? You have management hyper focused on whether or not every iteration, sprint, the team is hitting what it committed to. That's a bad sign, right? Especially at scale, because an individual iteration doesn't really mean much. And healthy teams are supposed to miss some and hit some. But if there's this hyper focus on that, then teams will become less transparent. They'll be more paranoid. They'll start buffering their time. So there's all kinds, and that's just a little example of a whole bunch of common practices, or what we would call anti-patterns, that undermine the trust. And then that can cause all kinds of dysfunction. So dealing with dysfunction, I actually like this approach. I've read most of the books that SAFe is based on, and most of the big books that are out there about Agile in general. I try to keep up with that. I haven't read this one, this Anatomy of Peace. It does make sense to me, though, just looking at this, the idea being that if you spend lots of time building the right environment, right, now you've got the right environment, you should be able to spend less and less time actually correcting problems, right? So it really makes sense. And so they have these bullet points about it. And I'm trying purposely to stay high level. This is my
The normal one.
experience because I can dive into all of this a lot, but choosing to put a little less focus. These are all very important things, just you're not going to see lots of them on the test. Make sure I'm not missing anything big. Okay. Yep. And there you could take, there's so many books written on this topic. It's almost seems silly to me to see this is my cynical side, to see some nice little slide with a few bullet points on how to resolve all conflict. This comes with practice and experience, but I mean, I think these are good tips. But obviously there's a lot to this topic. I do like this, why each party needs what they want. I remember listening to a podcast, it was probably a couple of years ago. They were talking about people that play the role of like international negotiations. And they're talking about how important it is that, right, that the negotiation appears win-win, right? Because almost by default, if there's any appearance of that somebody's a loser and somebody's a winner, it's a non-starter. And I don't know why that always stuck with me. For the last few years, when I read that, it just stuck with me. It just makes sense that you know, it's not really a zero-sum game, so to speak. All right, let's watch this. It's a short video on conflict resolution.
Every conflict has an underlying cause. Is it a values conflict? Is it a relationship conflict? It's really important to understand not the symptom of the conflict you're having, but actually what do you really need to solve from this? Is it within your scope? Is it something you need support in solving? And once you understand that, I always say talk yourself down the ladder, right? Of how to solve the problem. If you're at the top, it's I can't work with that person. But when you say, oh, this is a values conflict, I see this differently than they do, then it's, oh, maybe I should learn more about why they see it differently. And as you walk down the rungs of the ladder, you get to a place where, again, you're having a supportive, on the same team conversation about how to move forward. I'm Leishan Gargano Quilling, Scrum Master for the marketing team at Scaled Agile.
All right. Do you think you guys use working agreements in any of your teams? Nobody? I've had mixed results on this, the working agreements. I do know some teams really like these, and it seems to help them. And so it's a good thing to keep in mind. I've also seen some really dysfunctional teams that sort of just stay dysfunctional despite the working agreements. But I think overall, I'm a fan, especially if the team's bought into it. So they have this guide. I don't think there's one formula for writing the working agreements, but this is an example, some examples. And then they've got some notes here about achieving consensus. I don't think you can always have consensus, right? But if everybody feels trusting, they all feel respected, I think then they can, at a worst case scenario, agree to accept, right? If they kind of outvoted in a worst case scenario. Okay. Let's look at a couple of practice questions related to this. But just a reminder, at the end of the chapter here, remember, anything that's in those chapters could be on the test, or anything from these specific links. And there's stuff that's on the website that's not in the workbook, and vice versa. So don't forget about those when you're studying. And then this actually has quite a bit of reference and extra material. So if I know I went through a lot of that pretty fast, but there's no shortage of extra videos and all kinds of things for you guys to look at if you're interested in that, to diving deeper. And then here's a list of all the books you can add to your book report for tomorrow morning. Just turn it right on in at the beginning of your class. Okay. No ChatGPT. That's it. All right, let's look. All right, let's look back now. We got a little bit more. Look at my colors. We're supposed to be staying. I kept jumping to blue, orange or green, but I don't think all my colors are exactly right because I added these after. No blue, orange, blue. Here's an orange. All right, what about this one? Number 20. What is one way a Scrum Master can build a high-performing team? Oh, that sounds like a dangerous question. Oh, it's not too bad.
B.
B, yeah, T-shapes.
Very.
You got it. That's a good one. Okay. This is the one I was looking for before. That I thought was tricky. 24.
C,
You said B?
C, C for cat.
C for cat? How did you answer that so fast? Maybe it was just tricky to me. Creating transparency. Well, I guess one thing is it's got to be one of the Scrum values. And I think only the bottom two are actual values, right?
Yeah.
I don't think, yeah. So you can eliminate A and B. Okay. Yeah, and I could see how courage would contribute more. All right, what about this one? What is one responsibility of a Scrum Master?
D, supporting iteration execution.
This is a good class. I just thought you guys were sleeping through the whole thing. What's going on? Y'all are paying attention. All right. Here we go. Servant leader. What's one way servant leaders can encourage team member personal growth?
B,
Okay, we have a vote for B. Vote for D.
Even I would say D.
And another D. Okay. All right, think harder. Think harder about it. So, would they grow? Look at the wording of D. They,
Matt, sorry, my option was B, B for boy. Assign development paths to team members based on their current skills.
oh, okay. All right, think closely about that. Are you going to grow if all you're working on are things that are within your already developed set of skills? You see?
A,
Wouldn't that be A?
yeah.
A,
Right. So just focus on that. Right. Because, and this is smart, right? Because it also is cross-skilling, right? So you're building other skills. You're also building the ability to swarm the team because you'll have more of those T-shaped skills, right? So it's almost like servant leader was a little bit of a, like they didn't even need to say that. Because this is about a lot more than just the fact that you're servant leader. All right, good. Okay, so there's only a few more things that we want to go through today and we'll be done. We'll be looking really good time-wise. In lesson 3, so I'm going to do lesson 3. This isn't new. I always do it this way, a little bit out of order. We're going to, so lesson 3 is about PI planning, and all the things we need to know leading up to PI planning. But what we're going to do, I just don't like the way that they've ordered this. we're going to jump ahead to cover some core concepts like what is a feature and what is a story and how you would write features and stories. We're going to cover that today. And then tomorrow we're going to back up and then we're going to look at it from the PI planning standpoint. So we're not going to end up missing any of the concepts or any of the slides. But we're just, for today, we're going to talk about features. So I'm going to, if you're following along in the student workbook, it's slide 12 in 3-12. Yeah, 12 in the third chapter. So I'm going to jump to, let me show you this real quick. From my slide, this is just my view, and then I'll show you some other views that SAFe provides. So the requirements hierarchy goes epics, features, and then stories in SAFe. If you're using a tool in your company, you very well may have a different hierarchy that's being used. Like, for example, Jira. I know the default for Jira is stories and then epics, unless you've configured it differently. Are some of you guys using Jira?
Yes.
Yeah, I use Jira.
Yeah, is it stories and epics?
Yeah, stories and epics.
Yep. So your epic might actually be a SAFe, what SAFe would call a feature. And so I always have to do a translation. Every company I go to work for, I have to do this with roles and I have to do it with the requirements hierarchy. I have to say, okay, what SAFe would call this is this, right, in this organization. And then you have to decide if it's worth changing that or not. If you have a tool like Jira Align, which is their more full-blown, scaled option, used to be called AgileCraft till they purchased it. Then you're going to see this full hierarchy as I'm showing it. It'll be more aligned to SAFe. But otherwise, it just depends on the configuration. It could be the same with Azure DevOps or Rally or any of the tools. But in this, the stories are at the team level, and the features are what we deliver. They can deliver by an art within a single PI. Ultimately, at first, we don't know, right? We're just going to kind of be putting placeholders in. And then features ultimately realize this broader concept of an epic, which is this idea of, I sort of think of it as a funding mechanism where you're defining a broad initiative or something that needs to be done. And then the way we're going to build it is we're going to develop it a few features at a time called MVP, right? Just a minimum viable product. Then we're going to come back and evaluate it and decide if we want to keep on investing in that epic. And there's this cycle. So even at the epic, we're doing this PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, adjust. So I just wanted to show this. I'm going to show one more thing only because you might see it, but it's out of scope for the class. And that is in the largest organizations, sometimes one art is not enough. To deliver their solution requires multiple arts. And if that's the case, you have to add another layer called capabilities. And then you have what's called a solution train. Out of scope for the class, but you might, in some of the answers, you might see this word capabilities, and I just wanted to show you guys that. In case you saw it. And this is just an example of epic feature and story, what it might look like. Okay, so how do we write features? So features, when we go to PI planning, we're talking about the art. We're about to plan for the next almost quarter of a year. probably 10 weeks. And we're going to bring all the teams together to plan. And we know that what the art delivers are features, not stories, right? Just semantics, right? We're going to define our requirements as a feature. And so we're going to do an activity now where I'm going to split you guys into rooms and you're going to practice writing a feature. Why? With Scrum Masters need to know how to write features because it's so critical that features are written well. This is a common area you'll have to coach, right? Coaching your product owners and product managers. You know, at the feature level, this is normally, well, it's not normally, it is the responsibility of product management to have it defined, but oftentimes the product owners are contributing. Okay, so the first thing that a feature has, other than just the name and a brief description, is it has a benefit hypothesis. All right, so everybody listen, don't make the mistake. Don't make this mistake. The benefit hypothesis is not just an explanation of the feature, but it's actually, think about answering the question, why am I doing this feature? Why is it worth it? All right, so this is part of what's called hypothesis-driven development. And it comes, you know, from several places, but Lean UX is a big influence, right, of its usage here. So we why is this going to benefit the business or the customer? It could be from either perspective. So it doesn't have to be from one or the other, but either one. Is it going to make the customer happy, right? What benefit are we expecting to get if we were to do this? And then it should be potentially measurable, right? So maybe it's going to drive a certain amount of volume to a certain website. Well, we can measure that, right? It's going to make the customers, even if it's kind of subjective, right? Customers are going to be more, have a better experience because of A, B, and C. Well, we could call and survey the customers afterward, potentially, if we wanted to measure that. Okay, so benefit hypothesis. So with multi-factor authentication, going to have enhanced user security. This is actually not a good benefit hypothesis. This should go, don't write a benefit hypothesis like this. I don't like this example. I'm actually surprised to see that there. This is a good start, but what are we going to measure? How do we know that, right, the benefit is being used? Is it going to make the customers are going to feel more secure and more likely to use our solution because this is expected, because of privacy concerns right now, something that we could potentially measure. Or we're going to see increased compliance in something. I don't know, but that's the way we want to say it. Okay, so benefit hypothesis. The other thing is acceptance criteria. This comes from a concept called behavior-driven development, which we'll talk about more when we get to the story level. But you need to think of this as tests. So essentially the way we're writing requirements is in the form of tests, right? So instead of traditional requirements documents, we're writing this basic feature description, what benefit it's going to give, but all the detailed requirements are in the form of pass-fail statements, right? That could be checked off and tested. Think user acceptance testing, right? This high level when you're at the feature level. And then we do more detail level at the story level. Any questions about that? Okay. So we're going to practice writing features. And you guys are going to be tasked with creating a new personal assistant mobile app. So it's going to be your assistant. And so what you're going to do is come up with a few features. No, I don't care if it's 5, but come up with a few features that you would want to see in your mobile app. And at first, I would just put the name of them. Then take one of the features, doesn't even have to be 2, at least 1, and write acceptance criteria for it and a benefit hypothesis. So let's go section 3, feature writing. This is where we're going to be. All right, so I'm going to add, so it's a personal assistance app. I want my personal assistance app to teleport, right? Teleporting. All right, so that's the name of that feature, and then give it a description, benefit hypothesis, and acceptance criteria. You don't have to keep that. You know what I mean, whatever I want. Teleporting. Just make sure if you do teleporting that you check for like insects and stuff like that. Have any of you guys seen the movie The Fly? I'm dating myself now. The Fly. There's nobody here that's heard of the movie The Fly, really? Bunch of youngins. You have to go see that. Benefit hypothesis, acceptance criteria. And so I would just make a few with just the name and then pick one that you break down. Any questions about the activity?
Can you click on the where the activity is?
Sure. Is this what you wanted to see?
No, before that.
Are you talking about where, like it is over here?
Yeah. I mean, before you open this
Oh,
page,
yeah, it's
the
a-
previous page, yeah.
Yeah, 3.1.1, feature writing. And just as a reminder, to get to this from the main page, click the virtual classroom. Sound good?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's take a few minutes and just practice writing this. Title, description, acceptance criteria, benefit hypothesis for at least one of them. All right, let me open up the rooms. All right, you guys are set.
Hey guys.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, everyone.
Then
So can you think of any features that we need to add? It's for personal assistance on mobile app.
I would say maybe one feature would be privacy mode. Are we supposed to write on the board?
I believe so.
under the acceptance criteria would be the features, right? Description, benefit hypothesis, yeah.
So I would say maybe privacy mode, an emergency button. Maybe like an offline mode.
I'm just confused. The task says like your team is tasked with creating a new personal assistance mobile app.
Yeah.
Now, by personal assistance, do they mean like a chat box or something like that, where we can just ask or report?
It's like
any
Siri, right?
question?
It's like Siri. That's what I would think. Personal assistant.
Yeah, mobile
Oh
app.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like Siri and Alexa. Yeah, so
Yeah.
mhm. Mm.
Just checking in. You guys good?
Yeah, we're just brainstorming on features.
Awesome. Great, thanks.
I think what Arnold said might be a good one, the initial one. Because it's a personal assistant app, maybe we should have
Yeah. So
Voice recognition.
so I would say maybe like privacy mode, and then under privacy mode it would be something to implement and dedicate something that would be able to bring privacy and temporarily maybe suspend data and different sorts of activation. And then I would say maybe an emergency number. So besides privacy mode, I would say maybe number 2, an emergency, like an emergency button, or because this is like Siri, right? It's something that's supposed to help you inside of the mobile phone. So I would put an emergency, like an emergency SOS, to help you reject, or in case someone is using the cell phone and they need to call 911. There's something emergency there, so the emergency would be a second feature, and privacy mode would be the first feature. And then I would maybe I would do something that has to do with maybe like a daily check-in. I don't know, you guys think.
What do you mean by privacy mode? I'm not able to understand. I got the second point that you mentioned about the emergency contact. That makes sense. Because if someone is in need, they can simply use that more like a quick button to give a call to 911 or whatever it is. But what are you referring by privacy mode?
So something so if I did something like a privacy mode, I would do some it is to like implement like a dedicated privacy mode that suspends data collection and processing when activated. So ensure something that would be able to ensure users to have control over when their personal information is accessed. So no one can really.
So you are referring to the whoever is the app owner, they should not be using your personal data. Is that what you mean by privacy permission?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Or if privacy sounds too complicated, maybe do like a Face ID. I mean, that's still privacy mode, but yeah, I'm trying to go with an idea like that.
Shouldn't
I
the
believe
who's writing it? Sorry, Prakash, are you writing it or Rani is writing it? I see something is.
I'm just writing the
Okay.
first feature Arnold mentioned.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, I think what we are discussing is mainly on the acceptance criteria side, right? The features. The description is that we need to have a personal assistance on the mobile app. Description and benefit hypothesis. We are not discussing that, right? We are talking about the features. Or each feature will have these. Sorry, guys. I mean, there are 3 sets of things here, right? So are you guys trying to break it like that?
So I mean, number 1 is just what the assignment is. Consider the following: your team is tasked with creating a new personal assistant mobile app. That is not that is the heading of the assignment, the title. So we're working on number 2 now. As a team, brainstorm 5 features you would like to see on the new app and write them down. So we are brainstorming those features. So we haven't gotten to the acceptance criteria yet.
Yeah, I get it. But the features that we are discussing, that needs to be in here, right? On this. So for each feature, we would be writing these description, benefit hypothesis, and acceptance criteria.
Yeah, so for as per my understanding, what I am doing is like the first feature that Arnold mentioned with emergency contact. This is the benefit hypothesis that I am trying to define, like enabling the connecting with the contact and listed in case of emergency, and then on we can just move on to writing the acceptance criteria. Does this make sense right now, or do I need to change anything on the board?
I'm fine.
And Matt mentioned like just focusing on one feature. So if we can just have acceptance criteria for the emergency contact feature, and that could be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any kind of acceptance criteria? Arnold, can you think of few acceptance criteria for this feature?
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Natash and Chaitali, do you have any input?
Emergency contact. So it kind of personalized experience, right? Based on the numbers which would be listed as.
I believe it would be more around, let's say, if someone is using the app and they need to get a 911 call or maybe an emergency ambulance call.
Okay, just the night.
Yeah. I would also.
Or maybe they have a specific family member whom
Yeah,
they
as
want to
I-
get in touch. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Integrate an emergency response that would be able to like notify all the contacts on the cell phone in case of an emergency.
Oh, so Arlon, are you saying that all the contacts in the phone book should be notified?
I mean, it's even whatever you guys said first.
Emergency.
Whatever you guys said first, even one contact, all contacts, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to put there, it's fine.
I think it should be around the clock service.
Yeah.
Feature.
Yeah. Let the ladies decide. The ladies are the boss.
No. It's everyone's teamwork here.
So the very first acceptance criteria I mentioned over here is like creating a response by the user, emergency response by the user that can be sent to the emergency contact list. Anything else you can think of?
This feature should be accessible anytime, right? I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime, 24/7 and fast.
What do you mean by fast?
like it should be
With or
it-
without cellular network.
yeah, it should be capable. I would say it should be capable of activation within seconds, with or without cellular data.
Anything else, guys?
I think this should be good. We got 50 minutes, 50 seconds actually, 20 minutes out.
Yeah, he said at least one, right?
Yeah, at least one feature with benefit hypothesis and as many as acceptance criteria we can think of.
Okay.
I think that should be good.
Yeah.
You hanging in there, Arnold? Staying awake?
Yep. Yes.
It's good. All right, welcome back. So let's see how it went. Let's see, who wants to go first? Why don't we do group 2 first? We'll do it backward this time. What'd you guys come up with?
We did our best. We just said, we weren't clear on the app. I wasn't clear. I won't say we, I won't blame them. The app for personal assistant is like you have a PA and the app is for them to get tasks done, or you have a bunch of PAs that maybe go in
It's
there
all
and complete work for
make-believe.
you.
You get to decide. There's no right or wrong on a make-believe assignment. So, so how did you guys interpret it? You got a task list?
Yeah, we just said like if a person has an app, you've got a PA and this app is to help them support you. You would want them to know what they're doing. So that task.
Oh yeah, I didn't interpret it that way. That's interesting.
Oh,
I
sorry.
I don't live in fancy worlds like that. I don't have a personal assistant. Yeah, I was thinking more of it like being app based, but no, that's fine. Let's see.
Also that.
But either one is fine, right? Either one is legitimate use case. So your hypothesis, improve efficiency and provides quick reference list for end user. Okay, good. This right here especially is the benefit, right? And this is a little bit more of a description, kind of extra, but I'm glad you put the improved efficiency because we could potentially measure that,
Yeah.
right?
We weren't sure. I wasn't sure on the benefit hypothesis. So is that a question like a hypothesis, or is it? Are we saying how this is going to benefit? Like
Exactly. So it's a hypothesis, like just like in the scientific method in school, which I don't know if you guys remember, right? You always put forward a hypothesis and then you test it to see if it's true or not. And so our hypothesis is that if we build this, these things are going to happen. In your case, we're going to have measurable improvement in efficiency. And then and now essentially you're doing a test. We're going to execute it and we're going to see if your hypothesis was true. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
And then you guys have acceptance criteria is a visual list in the app of all tasks and the assignee. I agree, that would be definitely one of the most crucial acceptance criteria, for sure. maybe you'd expand on it, right? If you actually had more than just 10 minutes to work on it, but good. All right. Let's just look. Now see this one, ability to set the priority of task. What would be potentially good hypothesis statement for that? Because what you have here, it's not really a hypothesis statement. It does provide guidance, but why do we care about that? Okay, right? It provides guidance. You have to be explicit about it. But who cares?
What kind of statement
right?
would be the benefit hypothesis? So when you said it, would it be provides guide? So the benefit is ability to prioritize.
So
So the benefit is to
basically,
tell them
we're
what to do.
comparing a regular task list with ability to add priorities to the task list. Well, why is that a good thing? How does that help us? It does help us. I'm just asking, how do you say, why is that a good thing, adding priorities?
So you know what to do. Providing value, like the most valuable thing faster.
There, now you're on to the right thing, right? So we're going to have some, it's going to be more effective at getting value out faster, or our customers, right? You could even take the benefit hypothesis of this is a standard tasking capability that customers are going to expect, right? Because they're going to be, there's the checklist, but then checklist with priority is going to help them stay on top of things when their list gets really big, right? So there's several different ways you could draw the hypothesis, right? But you just want it to be tied to an actual benefit. Does that make sense? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I like your acceptance criteria. Good. All right, team one, how did you do? Emergency contact list. So what's the benefit here? This is a wording thing. Oh, never mind. I guess you did kind of word it there. I misread it at first. All right, let's be extremely explicit. Why is that a good thing? Right, we just sort of like why. It's probably good enough the way it is, but why is that a good thing?
To get to notify the emergency contact and to get help in case of emergency.
Right. You got it. It's a very efficient way to get the right help to the person, right? And it's but I think you probably did go far enough. In case of an emergency, if we have the emergency contact, we can let them know. So I think it is good. And then you've got accessible 24/7. Oh, interesting. This is what's called a non-functional requirement, which is good, versus this is a functional requirement. Both of them are acceptance criteria. So, yep, so I could test this. I could go and see if I could create an emergency response by the user. I could see if I could manage the contacts and change a contact, right? And create a new contact. Those are the examples of lists of tests that I could do if I were a tester, then that would verify that this feature is delivering everything it needs to.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Mhm.
What is a non-functional requirement? While we're on that, because that comes up several times, and you see it in the backlogs, but it's always listed as a bubble at the bottom. So, what is a non-functional requirement? It is a little tricky to describe. You gave one. You gave a non-functional requirement that would be categorized as availability, right? So that's a non-functional requirement. There are other examples of non-functionals would be maybe performance requirement, right? Like when they click submit, you want a response time of no more than a second. That would be a non-functional requirement. So how do we describe what those are to someone? We're all so brain dead. Does anybody use this term at work?
Yes, we do. So it actually doesn't relate directly to the functionality, but it attributes to the software reliability, security, efficiency, those kind of things, which is
Yep.
Which are important.
It's kind of hard to explain, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. Which are kind of feel like sometimes it's implied, but
Yeah.
it needs to be the test criteria or acceptance criteria, because if it's not, as you said, especially about the performance, right? If the application takes like long to load, and the customer might not be specifying that as a requirement, as a functionality, because he or she, they are assuming it to load faster. So it's not kind of a direct function requirement associated with the functionality, but it's more on the
Yeah. No, it's hard. Some people refer to it as qualities. Basically, these are probably the most common ones. You can actually Google non-functional requirements, and there are these official lists, and they're really long. But the way to think about non-functionals, and this may come up in the test, which is why I mention it, is this word constraint. They want you to know that, right? And here's what it means when they say that a non-functional is a constraint on the system. Some people don't get that connection, so just quickly what that means. So if you were to ask me to build you a website, I could have your website up in 20 minutes. You said, hey, just build me a website. I could do it, some one of those off-the-shelf cloud solutions, or I actually have an old web server here under my desk. I have some static IPs. I could have a site up and running for you very quickly. But then if you turned around and said, oh, by the way, well, before this, when you told me to build you a website, you actually gave me no constraints. I could design it however I want. I designed it very quickly and crudely using this old server that I have. I didn't ask you about the sensitivity of the data. If it needs to be secured, right? You need SSL. I didn't ask you about how many people are going to visit it. So then if you tell me that, you're like, well, actually, I'm going to have 1 million users an hour. Well, now we've got a problem, right? What you did is you just put a major constraint on my design, right? You ruled out all the easy things, I'm going to have to do something much more sophisticated. That's why they call it a constraint. Constraining my design or my solution possibilities. Same with security requirements. We're going to be collecting sensitive private information on the website. Right now, we've got security concerns. We need to make sure that certain things are in place. Does everybody understand that? Sort of the idea of constraint?
Yes.
All right, very good. And so usually these are not backlog items. They're tests, essentially, that have to be run, or checks, which is why you see them in acceptance criteria. And that's why you see them on safe as a little bubble right at the bottom. All right, very good. All right, last thing for today, features are implemented by stories. Just want to at least have said I taught y'all what a story is before we end the class. All right, so stories, as we talked about, the word feature and story have a lot of meaning. Features, you have up to a PI to finish, and it may take more than one team to do them, right? Because they're at the art level. Stories, they belong to one team and one team's backlog. They're small, they have to fit within an iteration. And they're written in this format, this user story format, as a I can, so that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about enablers in a second. I think there's a slide for it. So features fit in a PI, stories fit in one iteration. Stories have not only the story, it's written like this, the story language, but they also have acceptance criteria, just going to be more detailed. So because you have the acceptance criteria, you don't want the story to be overly stuffed long. It needs to be generally, fairly high level. Sometimes to keep them high level and understandable, people will use this thing called a persona. So hang in there, just a couple more terms, and we're going to be done for the day. You guys are almost there. If you're not familiar with personas, they're just a way to essentially aggregate a bunch of attributes about users, right? So we have different kinds of users. So we're kind of creating categories of the users of our system so we can better understand them. And it also makes the story writing easier, right? So if we could say as Jane, and that actually is simpler. And now basically what we've done is we've just declared the user is this type of a person and whatever attributes we listed. And as Bob, all right, now we've got something else to leverage. It makes the user stories easier to write and a little bit more detailed. We better understand what we're talking about, what the context is.
So Matt, this is how we're teaching to write the story. As Jane, I want to, so that is the sequence of what we teach.
That's a user, exactly. That's
Okay.
the user, it's called user voice form.
Okay.
Now remember that a user
And we're teaching this to the product
may not
owner.
be, say that again?
Are we teaching this to the product owner on how to write this stories?
Product owners and the development team.
Okay.
The development team contributes to story writing.
Yeah.
And even though the product owner sort of has authority in the final say.
Yeah.
And the users may not be human actors, right? It could be as the registration API, right? I want credentials so that I, don't give out the wrong, illegal information or something, right? It could be some something that's not human, right, as an actor. And it's still a user story if that's the context, right? So some people mistakenly think that if it's not a human user, that means it's a non-functional, but it doesn't. It's still a functional requirement, right? Because non-functionals are those other things, those testable constraints to the design. All right, so we have the personas, and you're right, this is the way we write them. And here's kind of an acronym that everybody uses to, if you want to kind of get better at story writing, this is generally what a good story would look like, right? It's independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable. It's got to be small, fit in that one iteration, needs to be testable. They talk a lot about the 3 C's. This has been around forever. This is coming from like old school Scrum, carried over, right? The idea that you could write it in some sort of card just gives you an idea that it's fairly short, and most of the details come out in conversations and then are documented in the form of acceptance criteria. Sometimes maybe you have to refer to some more extensive set of business rules. It's not that that's not allowed, but you want to do just enough, not too much more, right? And you can rely on conversation. So this is all great for starting out. But as a Scrum Master, especially in a safe environment, that one of your primary responsibilities as a Scrum Master is to improve flow, right? And to improve flow, you're going to have to start dealing with DevOps. You're going to have to start automating. So what you would do is you'd start to encourage your team after they got the basics of story writing down to start to take it a step further and to start laying the groundwork for automation. And that's where I'll bring this up again, this idea of BDD, behavior-driven development, comes in. So that's an acronym you need to be familiar with, behavior-driven development. All this means is the fact that we're writing this, our requirements in this form where it's based off of tests, pass-fail tests, acceptance criteria, that idea comes from behavior-driven development. We're thinking about the behaviors that we expect, and we're writing tests off of those. So if we were to take those pass-fail statements one step further, we put them in this format called given, when, then. So Arnold, this is another format you have to memorize, but there's only 2. There's that user story format for stories, and then we have this other kind of fill in the blank format for acceptance criteria this would be a more refined acceptance criteria, right? So maybe a newer team wouldn't go to this extent. But as the team matures and you want them high performing, you want them to be able to automate. And this is the first step to that. So what you see is when you add this, you're adding even more meat to it. You're setting up the preconditions of the test, given this scenario. And you set up the trigger. When this happens, and then the action, this will happen. All right, now it's starting to look a little bit more like a test. Do you guys agree?
Yep.
And that's as far as it goes in this class for this. But do any of you guys do this and go even further with it? Do you guys work in an environment where you guys are automating? Nobody? I'm surprised a little bit because it's not that uncommon anymore. It's not common that people have all automation, but it's becoming very common. That people are starting to do this. So just generally what happens is at this point, now you got to add test data. So this usually expands to mini tests, like the one test here will expand to mini that would cover quite a set data inputs that would set up the condition. And then you would start writing in this particular syntax called Gherkin. And some people even teach their POs to write that. It's more rare than not. It's usually test engineers. But that's what hooks it in to the automation tools that are out there. They're usually part of the pipeline software, the automation software. But even before you have automation as a Scrum Master, this is good practice and behavior to start instilling in your teams, right? You're setting them up for future automation by writing the stories this way. Any questions? Okay, I'm not going to push my luck. I sense brain overload. So we'll start fresh in the morning and I'll go over enabler stories, spikes and refactors. Those are the only two slides left that I was thinking I wanted to cover today, but centric saturation, again, it won't hurt us to fit those in tomorrow. So how do you guys feel? Still feel okay? End of the day?
Yep.
It's easy, right? No sweat. A lot of terms, right, to get used to. A lot of you have to be pretty precise, right, on the SAFe exams. That's my excuse for them, is why they focus so much on memorization. It's just because clarity and knowing exactly what you mean when you say a feature, right, or a story is very important, right? And because all this stuff, right, people think, oh, it's the requirement structure, and then next thing you know, their backlogs are full. Like a team backlog is full of a mix of stories and features and maybe a few epics. But that actually is meaningless if you do it that way. Because the fact that a team has a backlog and the fact that it's a story indicates that it's part of a bigger picture of a feature. So it indicates scope. This feature indicates the scope to that arc. An epic indicates its scope could be multiple arcs. And so there's a lot that's dependent upon the strong requirement structure. I'm going to show one thing for those of you that are a little more technical. If you're not, and if this freaks you out, what I'm about to show you, then just ignore it and act like you never saw it, okay? Does that sound fair? So it's this SAFe requirements model. If you know how to read diagrams like this, you're a diagram person. I remember when I saw this, because I was technical, I was like, this is all I need. I was like, why didn't y'all show me this sooner? Just give me this, that's all I need. If it stresses you out, then just ignore it. But it reads like a class diagram, right? Where you've got, it explains all the relationships very precisely in a nice graphic, right? Features are realized by stories. And then it has this multiplicity, right? So one feature, well, 0 or 1 feature is realized by 1 or more stories. Anyway, I'm not trying to teach you guys class diagrams, but if you already know this, there's a couple people that probably interested. Charlene, do you have a question?
Are you sharing a screen? Sorry, I didn't.
Why did y'all tell me I'm not sharing the screen?
Now I see it. Thank you.
Now you can have a heart attack or not.
This is good.
Yeah, so some of you, you'll know who you are. If you're a diagram person, then you're like, oh, thank goodness. And some people really get stressed when they see things like this, and I would just say, don't worry about it. So this is you would just search for requirements model, and you'll find this page if you're interested.
So see how in Matt, see how in when you started the class, when you're doing the Scrum and Safe terminology, you did like sprint planning, and Safe it's called iteration planning. Do you have anything you can compare to with Scrum, with PI planning, or no? What is PI planning like to compared with in Scrum, or there's nothing like that?
Just there's nothing in just Scrum, right? There is it. When you start getting into that, you're comparing to Scrum at scale, right? Which is a different framework. And Scrum at scale has a Scrum of Scrums, and they do planning. They just use little different terms. Some people refer to this as big room planning. Only Safe uses the term PI, right? I know that some say quarterly, but there's not an exact match to the Scrum as in the Scrum guide, right? So there's the Scrum guide. You guys could go download it. It's this very brief guide, it's like something like 12 pages is all. It defines the foundation of all of Scrum. And it talks about a product backlog and a team backlog. So you could think of the product backlog in Scrum as equivalent to the art backlog. It's a little bit bigger list of features. But they don't really have like specifications until you go to one of the scaling models that I know of for coordinated planning. That's sort of the definition of requiring a scaling model. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's why really Scrum is being followed at the team level. Everything above the team level, it's not really Scrum, right? It's actually mostly Kanban, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. It's driven by this system of Kanbans that set up all the rules to when do we write the feature, at what level of detail, and which people do we have to involve, and when, and how do we prioritize? All of that is kind of managed through a series of Kanbans that have all those rules. So Scrum is primarily a team level mechanism. But you're lucky because you're a Scrum Master in a safe environment, so you have to know how it all fits together. You don't get to just focus on the team. All right. Any questions about today? I think we're going to stop here. Good. I guess we finished before midnight. How about we just keep going all the way through the night and just finish the class out? What do y'all think? That's me joking because I could tell. The reach-their limit. Like, that's fine. Just be going to sleep. All right. Just make sure you have your book reports ready
Yeah.
for the morning.
Soon. I'm done.
And, Any questions for me?
No.
All right. It was fun. Hope I didn't scare anybody off. You guys come back tomorrow refreshed.
Thank you.
Tomorrow we're going to focus on, it's going to be a lot of practice. It's still a lot of information left to go, but we are going to get into the tangible kind of, the workings of the meetings, the events. Right. So it'll be a little different spin tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.